Hello, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. This week, we've got Sebastian Terry. How are you doing, Sebastian?
I'm great. Where are you in the world?
I am in a county called Kent, down in the southeast of England.
Okay.
So sort of between London and Dover.
Excellent. I love it.
You're over in LA. Is that right?
I am. I'm in Venice. I'm in Venice Beach.
Wow.
So I'm in LA, which is actually not a bad place for lockdown either. I mean, there isn't a lockdown. It's just been all lifted. So
has it?
It's business as normal here. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh man, when did that happen? When did it all get lifted?
Well, you don't need we haven't needed a mask for probably a month.
Right.
Bars are fully open. I just watched the Euro final, England, Italy, in a packed bar. So it's just normal. You know, vaccines are everywhere, very easily available, you know, should you want one.
Yeah.
I feel bad because I've got a lot of friends back home in Sydney who are not allowed out of the house at the moment, which of course we went through. But it looks like we're coming out of it quicker. Who knows what happens next? But
well, it's been a roller coaster, isn't it, of a year and a bit here. I have a friend
over
in
lockdown as well.
Yeah, we're not fully out. I think the 19th is our Freedom Day. 19th of July is everything's being lifted and fill your boots, off you go. But I'll be honest, it pretty much almost is like that here. And it has been for a good few months, I would say, here. You know, people have just got back to it and that's just the way it is now. Yeah, I've got some friends over in Oz. They're up towards Brisbane, that neck of the woods, and they said they've just gone back into lockdown, haven't they, over there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a shame. It's
Well, listen, folks, if you have never heard of Sebastian before, how about I throw it open to you? I normally do this with the guests. I just go, what's your name? Where'd you come from? What you do? And then we'll go from there. How about that?
Okay, great. Oh, so you're asking me, right? I'm Sebastian. I'm intrigued by people who introduce themselves their first and last name, by the way. Do you ever have that in a conversation? I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, anyway. I have done. Yeah, quite formal, isn't it?
I'm Sebastian, and I have a list of 100 things I'm trying to do to be happier in life. I've been doing it for 12 years. I suppose it's kind of in the realms of a bucket list. And then the journey's kind of grown into this thing where it's a big community of people around the world. And not only do we sort of help people identify and strive for their goals, but we help them and support them where we can. And we also connect strangers to engage in, acts of kindness, I suppose you'd call it. So, so I'm from Australia. I'm from Sydney on the Northern Beaches. And now I live in LA. I've been here for 4 years, I think.
I love how this story has transformed your life. I find it really inspirational. It's part of the reason I wanted you on this is because my whole channel and the podcast is all about my live your life ethos. We had a little chat about it at the start. Essentially, it's a promise I made my mum before she passed away. So the whole live your life thing has really changed and it's impacted on my life. And I just love, your story, again, it has a real emotional and sad beginning. You lost a very close friend about 10, 12 years ago, didn't you? And that sent you on this journey. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we're really similar in that regard. And it's a very common story. Somebody loses somebody close to them. Or almost, there's a few examples, but you could almost lose your own life, or you could be dealt some news, which is, kind of very thought-provoking, such as you have a terminal illness. But, in those opportunities of kind of darkness, if you will, or adversity, however you want to look at it, I think there's an opportunity to consider a better way of living, or at least an opportunity to kind of pause and go, am I living well? And that's what happened with me. I lost a friend. I was 25. He was 24. I'd also done a few things beforehand, as in I'd got a university degree and felt really underwhelmed with that. I started a business with a friend and just felt very underwhelmed with that. And I lost a friend, Chris. And all of those things came together in one moment. And I just thought, am I happy? Am I living well? I actually thought about my friend, not that I got the opportunity to ask him, but I thought if he got another 24 years, would he live the same way? Or would he change everything? And I don't think he would have changed anything. He just lived really well. As far as I could tell, it was a very values-driven life, something that just, as you said earlier, filled his boots or whatnot. And it was great. And I thought, right, a life far too short, but one really well lived. What about me? And then in that moment, I just thought, well, what have I done? Who am I? And I had no idea. I hadn't done much, hadn't smiled a lot. And I thought, right, how do I change that? So I just wrote down a list of things I thought would make me smile more. And there was about 100 things on this bit of paper. And I just thought, I'll try and do that. I'll just be happy. So I just dropped everything 12 years ago, and the journey has just taken off in some beautiful way. And I've got to say, I feel pretty good.
Man, that's awesome. It's awesome. Sends shivers down the spine. That it's very inspirational, very powerful stuff. I get you. I mean, this has obviously become a way of life, a business for you now as well, with the whole Seb 100 thing. Is it 100things.com or Seb 100 things?
Yeah, it's 100 things. Yeah, 100 the website,
things.
100.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously do. You get lots and lots and lots of people contacting you, asking for advice on what to do. And people now can create their own sort of bucket list, can't they? They're their own list of things to do, and you help people accomplish different things.
Yeah, it was never a plan. It just sort of happened. Like as you said, I started answering a lot of questions. People seem to have questions for. How can I start a list? Where do I begin? I want to do this, but I'm not sure how. So I used to just reply to everyone and just say, well, this is what I did. This is what I did, and just offer. It wasn't kind of like advice, just my thoughts really on it, perspective, if you will. And then, it got to a point where people started asking me to speak on stages for their businesses. And I'm really lucky I get to do that, all around the world now. And then I kind of changed the website because the story very quickly wasn't just about me. It became about everyone. I just represented what everyone kind of wanted to do, and which was, be happy by doing things that are important to us. And I would just share my story. So other people started doing that. I helped a few people with their things as well. And then, we just kind of developed an 8-step class, if you will, online class for people to create, develop, strive for, achieve their goals, which I'm so proud of. It's changed lives. It's unbelievable. So it has become a business, but I think more importantly than that, it's just become a really good community. We catch up all the time on Zoom weekly with people around the world, and it turns out we're all the same.
Mate, absolutely. That is the overwhelming thing I got from traveling and meeting all these strangers all around the world, from every background, every culture, every religion, every skin color. We're all the same. Everyone's out there, essentially. They want to look after their family and friends, and they will help if they can help. 99.9% of people out there, no matter where they come from, will help you, won't they? If you're in need, they will literally give the shirt off their back if you need it. I'm
a big believer in. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, it's just we chatted earlier. I was old Bill. I was a police officer before this, and I did find myself change over the course of 10, 15 years in the police. That I found myself becoming very untrusting and sort of almost a little bit bitter towards a lot of people, just strangers I never met. I'd be very judgmental because you have to be. That's, at the end of the day, you're living on your wits when you're in that sort of job, not to be melodramatic. And it was so nice to come out of that world and, almost be able to breathe again and discover that the people are nice.
Yeah, I fundamentally believe we're all nice. We're all good. We all, and as you say before, we're all here and ready to help. We're innately wired to help each other and connect. We just don't know how. And I found on my story, all these things that I wanted to do. It's weird because I get celebrated for a lot of the stuff that I did. From marrying a stranger in Vegas to delivering a baby to walking across the country to doing stand-up comedy, whatever the things are. And almost every single story, only really, sure, I was the spark. It's what I wanted to do. It's on my list. But when you take a few steps, as in that direction, or you head down the freeway on your motorcycle, you do meet the people who you need to help. People want to help each other out. I couldn't have delivered a baby unless someone said, "Hey, you want to help deliver my baby?" And it's our community calls that we do every week now. There are people who want to do things, and people in the community will inevitably help them out all the time, because so many of it, it's not a conversation we typically have. What do you want to do? What's a really important dream of yours? And as soon as you start sharing that within a like-minded community, you'll realize that people will actually not only share goals, but will be able to help you out. That's what a community is. It's a group of people who share a common belief or interest or goal. And so that's what 100 Things is now. It's a place where people come share their goals, knowing that they're going to bump into other people or they can take that journey with or get help from. And of course, the other side of it is you can help somebody. Yeah, if you told me now, hey, this is something that's really important to me and I could probably help, I would, and vice versa. And that's what the world is, So I'm so glad that you're now in a position outside of the police where you get to see that side of people, because it's
Definitely.
beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. It's very much the pay it forward philosophy, isn't it? It's, pay it forward and it'll come back to you eventually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I completely agree.
Nice. How long do you have to chat?
Today?
Yeah. Just now on the podcast.
How long would you like to chat?
Well, these can go on for hours, but I don't want to hold your time up here. It's just so, because we've got quite a few questions here, and I know from past experience the questions can be quite obscure. So obviously they can take us down all sorts of different avenues. So it's trying to gauge the time.
I got to get out of here at 1.
Okay.
So 50 minutes.
Cool. Right. No worries at all. How about we crack on then with the questions that people have posed? Well, so I'll look at this camera. I'm looking at you, but I should be looking at that camera, shouldn't I?
Your audience have posed questions for me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what I do is I post up on my. I have quite a large Patreon following. They basically allowed me to go full time at this. So I post up on my Patreon a few days before the podcast and say this is the next guest, and then generally a day before the podcast I post up on Instagram and Facebook, because I've got I've certainly got quite a large Facebook community that follows there. So I post up and say, if you've got any questions, and then we just go through those questions. Oh, sorry, 2 seconds. My wife is screaming. 2 seconds, sorry. Sorry, man, I do apologise about that. Folks, apologies about the interruption. Slight catastrophe with the new pup. You might know on social media we got a new pup and she managed to get out the front door there. So that was
this live?
No, it's not live. No, I'll edit it all together so there's not a big massive pause in the middle. I've basically been outside running for the last 10 minutes. I
was just playing piano. I'm trying to, on my list is trying to learn a classical piano piece. I'm trying to learn Clair de Lune.
Awesome.
So any opportunity, I just jump on. So it was fine for me.
How's the handstands going as well? I've been following on your social media for July.
Mate, good actually. Yeah, my handstands are getting heaps better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I saw you were watching the Euros, was it yesterday? And then that guy did was it a backflip or forward somersault?
Here's the truth behind that story. So that would have been day 11 of handstands. I'm doing 3 every day.
Yeah.
And like you say, I was at the Euro. I was in a pub watching the Euros, and of course, a couple of beers found their way. And I thought, oh no, I've meant to do this handstand. So I ended up doing it in the middle of the bar. And it was just very funny. And yeah, as you say, a gymnast saw me, came over and completely upstaged me by doing a backflip. So great.
Fair play to you. Do you know, I have never in my life ever done a handstand. You might find that hard to believe, I know. But no, I've never done a handstand. And watching you, it's like, Jesus, that's actually really hard, isn't it? I never thought about it.
It's super hard, yeah. I mean, I'm starting from scratch. So anyway, today's day 13. So.
Awesome. Good. Right, so where were we? We're going to head over to Patreon, and the clan have left some questions there. So this is patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Brian McManus. Hi to you both and everyone listening. What is the most strange thing on your bucket list, and what's the strangest thing you've seen or heard on someone else's list?
Right. Well, it depends what what you think is strange, but yeah. Oh, I posed nude for an art class once. That was pretty weird. I kissed a celebrity. It was pretty strange, I guess.
What's the story behind that one then? Who did you pick?
Well, it wasn't a matter of picking anyone. I mean, I didn't have that luxury. It was just it happened to be Sharon Osbourne. You know Sharon Osbourne?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, we were speaking at the same event, and she was speaking before me. And she did a Q&A, and I asked her, hey, any chance of a kiss? I was petrified. And she said, yes, get on stage. So I walked in. There was 1,000 people there in Sydney, this was. And I walked on the stage, and I was absolutely sweating bullets. And I just walked over to her and put my face in front of her face. And I was like, well, let's see what she does here. And she stuck her tongue, literally down my throat, bit my lip, it bled. And it was just, it was really great. And then she got off stage and I gave a talk. It was brilliant. So that was pretty funny. What else? Lived on a deserted island for a week. I mean, there's a bunch of strange ones, I guess. because so many people start their lists now on our site, pick your flavor really. I mean, I saw someone the other day. I don't think I can even say that one. It gets pretty sexual. It's a bunch of sexual ones, which is great.
Well, there's no watershed on this, mate. Say what you like. It's no problem.
Well, I'm trying to. Someone shared once that they wanted to have sex with a large Eastern European man on a train.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very specific. So there's a bunch of that stuff. What else? I mean, like dyeing hair, but it's kind of funny. That's the beauty of a list, right? It could be anything. And, people really obscure, really small and simple, someone just wanted to say sorry to somebody who they hadn't said sorry to yet. And, to the typical bucket list things like jumping out of a plane or whatever. But I was plenty of weird ones, I
mean, on this Seb 100 things, how do people go about doing it? Do they literally just go to the website, register, and that's that?
Yeah, so there's various things you could do. You could just go to the site and start your list. It's free. It's fine. It's great. And then we're just kind of, because what's happened over 12 years is that this has become a thing accidentally. And so there's a lot of value in that for people. And I've just done what I can. And then, more recently, I've always tended to stay away from the business side of things. I'm just like, whatever. I'm fortunate I get to speak a lot, and that helps, right? But I don't know. I feel like the more income that we generate now through the site, the more impact we can have. And like I said before, I think we were off air when I was saying this, but lives have changed and lives have been saved, and so I want that to happen much more than what currently, should be happening all around the world, tens of millions of people. Yeah. So to get there, we're trying to put in a bit of business structure. So I've brought on a friend. And so, you can go and start your list now. We also have this 8-step program, which you can buy, do it as a group and over 30 days, or just buy it off the shelf and do it yourself at your own pace. And that helps you really understand, because not just starting, I don't even really use the term bucket list, but it's not as simple as just going, well, I want to do these 10 things. It's a real deep dive into your past and your, reflection, giving yourself permission. Et cetera, understanding what your values are and what I would call the spokes to your wheel of life, or your motorcycle wheel of life. And then, that's the beginning of a list. So you can do that. That we have these, accountability calls every week. People just jump on and share their goals or what they're struggling with, or, where they can help. And there's a lot of things. But if you go to 100things.com, you can just start by, starting a list for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's like a full support package that comes with it. If you want that kind of thing, you can, as you said, you can dive deep into it. And
yeah. And we're actually building it out so it looks and works a lot better than what it currently is. So but I mean, if anyone does want any help, obviously let me know. But I'm all about people starting their lists. I think it's really important.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the idea. I genuinely do. Next one, Matt Jordan. I hope you're both well. Thanks for putting up with my questions so far. Not kicking me out of the clan just yet, Bruce. No worries at all, Matt. No worries. My question is, how many of your bucket list tasks have you regretted when you reach the point where you're about to do it? And also, what were they?
Oh, so interesting. Well, it's kind of disappointing for Matt. I don't really have any regrets. I remember being kind of like underwhelmed by one of them, and that was I got my fortune read. I always wanted to get my fortune read. But it's a very easy list item, right? But I kind of feel like the lady I did it with was just, I was going to say a fraud, but she didn't connect with me. I'd heard really good things about her, but I went in there, and it was a Turkish tea leaf reader, and she basically said, she's like, who's Stefan? And I was like, I don't know, Stefan. She's like, who's Hillary? And I don't know, Hillary. And she went on with names for felt like 10 minutes. And finally, she's like, who's Brett? And I go, my sister's dating a guy called Brett. And she's like, thank you very much.
That'll do. Yeah.
What do you mean? I could have done better than that. So that was disappointing. But nothing I've regretted, certainly. I do think, though, that the concept of regret or feeling underwhelmed definitely comes from, or it can come, what I've seen is that it comes a lot from people who kind of have these goals which aren't necessarily that important to them. Whether that, it's a goal that somebody, an expectation of somebody, I should buy a house. So they go and get a house eventually, and they're like, it doesn't really mean much to me. The point here being, I think the bigger point is it's always good to really check in with your values every so often and make sure that your goals are aligned with your values. And that way, I think you give yourself the best opportunity to avoid feeling disappointed when you do achieve these goals. Because, imagine working towards a goal for years and years and years, getting there, and then realizing, didn't even really matter to me that much. So, anyway.
There's something that I faced, and I've had lots of other sort of motorcycle adventure travelers on here who've done, like life-changing trips and stuff. And it's like the post-trip blues. It's that feeling where you've done it, you accomplish this life goal, this amazing task that you set yourself, and you achieve it. And then it's like, well, what now? Is you end up back in your previous life, and nothing else changed except you've, like, for me, I felt like I totally changed. Weirdly, my wife and family said, no, you seem the same to me, but I felt totally different. And I really struggled for about a year just trying to settle back into my old life and my old job. And I'm not alone. Yeah. There's so many other people that I've spoken to who've had the same.
Yeah, there's so many things to say about that. I mean, one, I think, a very obvious statement is, well, if you have a list of things, you do one thing, which is great, and then you look at the list and go, what's next?
Yeah.
And they don't all have to be motorcycling around the world. They don't have to be big at all. You can get just as much satisfaction from doing that to, potentially saving a puppy that runs across the road, as you just did, or like decorating the house or whatever. I mean, as long as the goal is meaningful to you, it's important, right? But then the other thing, I mean, you're a perfect example of this. You did that big trip, and then you took a moment to take stock of what had happened. And then you made a decision to completely kind of pivot and go, well, that meant so much to me that I'm now going to try and embrace that in my life moving forward. What does that look like? Well, for you, it's something like Patreon and a podcast and all the other things you do. Yeah. So it's important to like go with the flow. And I think another important point is this idea of a list, or a bucket list, if you will. It's not a list of things that sits separate to life. It's not that you do your work and everything over here, and then suddenly you take a pause and you go and do an item from your list over here and then go back. I think it's all encompassing. Like, ideally, and this is very idealistic, but everything we do professionally and personally, within the community, with our family and friends, everything should be meaningful. Everything should be something that you're desiring or trying to go towards. It should be, so I feel like, in a way, that the secret is trying to create a lifestyle which is very list driven. And then I think you can maybe avoid this idea of this post-trip or post-item blues, post-goal blues, because your life is full of them anyway.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And my whole live your life thing, it's nice to see it's had an impact on my own community, the people that followed the trip and have sort of gone through this whole thing with me. And loads of them have adopted it, and they're all, it's almost like the say yes more ethos. They're like, right, I'm doing it. Let's go for it. I've got a friend of mine who literally almost will not say no when people go, do you fancy coming to do this? He's like, yeah, okay, let's go for it. And he's, within reason, obviously. But and he just says himself, he's so much happier in life because he's just going for it. And it's like a challenge. And yeah, he's loving it.
Well, even that, I mean, that was on my list. Say yes to everything for a week. Again, just the idea of, if you go and do something that's absolutely epic, like a motorcycle trip around the world, you can come back and really spice things up without having to do much different. It could be as easy as saying yes to people for a week or a day, So yeah, I think creativity is a really important thing to tap into when it comes to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Next one, Mark Fulcher. I hope me ducks. Mark's northern. That's how they speak up north. I hope me ducks. Forgive me, but as I'm just a Mardy bugger, that means he's a grumpy bugger, I don't buy into the whole bucket list and inspirational speaking malarkey, and do question why people have to make such a big deal about just cracking on and doing rather than sitting on their backsides and getting on with it. I wonder how Sebastian manages people with the same opinion as me, and how he goes about swaying them to put it into the theory. Obviously, it must be working. He's got a second part to that question, but yeah, how do you deal with skeptical people? Do you get any?
Well, I agree with him. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, if an alien landed, I've always thought this. I'm put up on a stage, right? It's not like I'm not seeking to be on a stage, but I'm on a stage, and I'm talking to a group of people, right? Imagine if an alien just popped up at the back of the room and said to this guy here, what's that? Why is everyone listening to him? And this guy who just said the question went, well, he's doing the things he wants to do in life. The alien would rightly say, what do you mean? Is that different? Is that not what everyone's doing?
Yeah.
It should be normal. So the idea of, I mean, I think there's, just to answer this personally from my perspective, I think there's a difference in context as to kind of what I'm doing. I'm not trying to be a motivational speaker. I'm not trying to be on a pedestal. I'm not trying to be a coach or whatever these other names are. I just happened to be doing something which sadly is not common. And so to people who are kind of skeptical as to, well, I don't need a list, and hey, I'm not trying to argue that you do. I would, warmly suggest that it's a positive thing in people's lives, and even go as far as saying, well, you probably do have a list if you think about it. I mean, we all have goals, whether it's make enough money to do A, B, or C, whatever this gentleman's goals are, we all do. If the concept of a list is too quirky, I don't know how else to, if you have a goal that sits under another goal, which sits under another goal, that is technically a list. So, I mean, it's not the bucket list. I agree. It's a very commercial term, very American, popularized maybe by that movie, The Bucket List. But the concept of doing things before you die is not really how I think about it at all. I mean, I think being fear-driven, you have to do this before you die, is not the right way to go. This is about just living well. So I think to boil it down for people who are more skeptical about the cliche-ness of a list, we should all just be wanting to smile. I think ultimately we all do, even if you're did he say Marty? Marty
Bugger, yeah.
Marty Bugger, even if you're a Marty Bugger, I would assume behind that facade is someone who just wants to feel good, because that's ultimately what we all do want to do. So what are the things that are going to make you feel good? They don't have to be, again, jumping out of a plane, climbing Everest. They could be, having a nicely cultivated beard, or, it doesn't really matter. But just, I think we all have things that are important to us because we all want to feel good.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a question of identifying them personally, isn't it? For each different person.
Yeah. It's a very personal and relative concept, So well, I get it. I mean, I get this comment quite a lot after a talk. People come up to me and be like, "Ugh, I owe you an apology. I thought you were just going to come in here and tell us how much you had done and all the things that we need to do to be happy." And that's far from the point. I just happen to have I suppose a unique maybe story, but the sentiment of it isn't about me. It's about, hey, we're actually all the same, and we all want to feel good, whether you're a Marty Bugger or not. I think we're all the same, really.
Yeah, I mean, your story is an incredible story, but not taking the shine off of it. It's a simple story, isn't it? It's just you had to think about your life and, okay, these are the things that I would like to try and achieve and attain, and off you go. And as you said, for everyone can do that, can't they? Everyone can sort of decipher what's important in their life and what achievable goals, what do they want to achieve. And it's just a question then of having the self-discipline to make it happen, isn't it? And go for it. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the story is like one that everyone should have, really. I mean, you want to do things that are meaningful to you in life. And I think by doing so, you become better equipped to help other people in some way, shape or form. And certainly that's my story. I've done plenty of things from my list that, I don't need to tell people about. And because of it, I got into this position where I started helping others. Like I pushed this guy called Mark in a wheelchair to complete a half marathon because he had Lyme's disease. I mean, it's a long backstory, but he had Lyme's disease because he got bitten by a tick in Europe. I think he was in Italy. Wow. And went from being an able-bodied to a quadriplegic. And one of his biggest goals was to finish a half marathon. So I pushed him. And it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. But it only happened a year and a half into my journey when I felt better about myself. So, I think the benefit of being like healthily selfish by doing the things that are on your list is that you actually better position yourself to help other people, whether that's as a father, a mother, a sister, a brother, a friend, a colleague, a dog father. I think it's all about that, building yourself, putting your oxygen mask on first so you can help others.
Yeah, definitely like it. Aye. Mark's got a second question, not quite as in-depth as the first one. Secondly, if I may, to both of you, who was your pin-up girl or boy poster on your wall when you were lads? Mine was Denise Van Outen.
Mine was Cindy Crawford.
Was it? I'm trying to think who. Sorry, when I said mine was Denise Van Outen, that was Mark. Mark said his was Denise Van Outen.
Oh.
What was mine?
I don't know who Denise Van Outen is. Who's that?
Do you know? She's a British. She's lovely. She was a TV presenter. Now she's an actress and does a lot of like theatre shows. She did Chicago for quite a while as well.
Oh, I got a picture of her here. Oh, I can see why. I can see why. Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to think who mine was. Do you know, Matt, I'm going to sound really weird here, but when I was a teenager, I was heavily into my rugby. I didn't have women up on my walls. I had like David Soul, the captain of Scotland, and Tony Stanger, Gavin Hastings, and Finlay Calder, John Jeffries.
I got two funny stories. One is I recently did a TED talk with Paulina Poroskova, who's do you know her? She's like a famous super from back in the day. And so for some reason that name keeps popping up and I'm like, I know her. I didn't know her before. Anyway, mate, so I used to play rugby too. I ended up in Scotland at one point backpacking. Was I back? Yeah, it was before I started 100 Things. And I went for a run one day. I hadn't played rugby in years. And I kind of like came upon this field and there was a team in there training. They're playing touch. So I jumped in and said, can I play? And they allowed me to play. And they asked me to come back to training. And they're like, we'd like you to kind of play with us. And I was like, oh, great. Had no idea who they were. A bunch of them were wearing like Scotland shorts and socks. And I was like, what's going on here? Anyway, next training I went down and I can't remember the name of them. This is in Edinburgh. What are some teams out of Edinburgh?
There's Edinburgh Ackies, Watsonians. Blimey, crikey. When was this? How long ago?
Like 2004 or 5 or something.
Could have been some of the districts. Yeah, could have been all sorts.
I can't remember. But anyway, I went back for training, and at the end of that session, I was so keen. I was like, Raz, that's it. I'd love to play. And we had a wrestling kind of drill at the end, and I dislocated my shoulder. Oh. So I dislocated my shoulder, and the coach comes over, and he's like, he's taking off my boots because I can't with a dislocated shoulder. And he says to me, and I'm going to do a horrible Scottish accent. He goes, "You'll have to tell your dad that Kenny Milne took your rugby boot off." It was Kenny Milne. Yeah, and I didn't know who he was. I Googled him, and it turns out that he captained the Scots when you guys beat the All Blacks at one point.
Oh, God.
Jeez, British Lions.
Right, yeah.
Maybe it was a British Lions.
Yeah, he was a Lion, yeah.
But anyway, it was kind of funny. Yeah. So I had all the rugby posters on my wall as well.
You played for, was it Mauritius you played for?
Yeah. Well, that was on my list. Number, I can't remember now, 60 something. I wanted to represent a country or something because I always thought it was going to be rugby. Young guy with ambition, as I'm sure you had with rugby. And I was like, and it never happened. And then I kind of readdressed it. So my mum's from Mauritius, so I applied for a passport. I got it. I flew there, tried to find a sport that they were average enough at that I was the best. And I tried a bunch of things. It turns out I'm pretty average too. But rugby, I made the national rugby team, met some incredible people there. We got flown to Botswana to play in the African Championships, Group C, and we won. Brilliant. I got 3 test caps, and we beat Swaziland 132-0, which at the time was it was the second highest ever international rugby score. But I don't know if that's true anymore.
Bloody hell, that's a good effort. I played in a game once where we lost 140 odd, like 6, I think it was. We got absolutely trounced. Yeah, that rugby one I think was one of the first videos I saw of yours. I think it popped up on YouTube or something years ago. Yeah.
Let's go back to the questions. Sorry, I could babble on for ages.
No, please do, man. Please do.
No, I'm not going to. No, let's go to the question.
Right on. Next one, Kevin Beecham. Hi to you both and hope you're all well. I would like to ask you both what you think of saying yes more often. Inspired by the film Yes Man, do you think it's a good thing? Best wishes and thanks for taking the time to read my question. No worries, Kev.
Geez, your Paul and Kevin, everyone, they're so polite and lovely. I'm doing great. I think for sure. I think having like an open attitude is a great thing, Like you said earlier, you want to have some kind of boundaries around what you're saying yes to. But generally, I think, that's what life is. Because we all think this thing's, very controlled. And we have this perceived notion that, we're secure if we're organized and there's a schedule of some sort. But the truth is, it's chaos. We're spinning around through infinite space on a rock. And the fact that you're not flung off at every moment is incredible. So I think, if the world was if opportunities and stuff were only as big as my own imagination or the things that I could plan and schedule, it'd be a pretty boring life. But I think when you open up and you start saying yes to things, the most magnificent things can happen. That's the unknown of life. That's, you fall in love, you get a job, whatever these things are that we end up doing in life, they only come because everything's chaotic and we open ourselves up to the opportunity. So yeah, I think ultimately it's a blend between saying yes to most things, but of course at some point knowing exactly what it is you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I've found that my approach now is much more open than it used to be, in that I'll run with stuff a lot more now. It'll be like, right, okay, let's go for it. The things like, examples are, when I was on my trip, people would post up on social media who were following, and they'd be like, oh, I can see that you're heading to Malaysia. I've got a mate who knows a guy who once went to uni with a guy who's from Malaysia. I can give him a shout, and he can look after you, meet up with you. And eventually in the trip, you just start going, yeah, cool, all right, let's do it. And you end up going to the bar or someone's house you've never met before, and you just go with it, don't you, and see where it takes you. And for me, that's where the whole trip came alive, was just opening myself up to the journey and what life was going to throw at you.
100%. 100%. I remember where I learned this lesson. It was before I started 100 Things. I went backpacking out of university.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to South America first, and everyone said, everyone's going to steal your stuff. Careful, it's really dodgy. Really, don't talk to anyone. I remember the first week, I just wasn't having a good time because I was just being so sheltered. And then I thought, oh, no, sod this. I'm going to chat to everyone. And that's, as you say, things just opened up. And certainly with 100 Things, I mean, my stuff so many of my items wouldn't have happened unless I just opened myself up to opportunities. Like, as you said, people are great. And I've been offered so many things experientially and, contacts. And, hey, you can sleep in my spare room if you, and I hitchhiked across America. And, it's another example of just saying yes to anyone who offers you a lift. Yeah. That's where the magic is. And that's where I think you really get a lot out of life, because we all know that person too, who's just really open. And sure, that you're never going to believe what they did. They traveled all the way across here just because someone said there's someone there you should meet. And you're kind of envious, right? You're like, wow, that's living. And it is. So I think saying yes is a great thing.
Absolutely. Oh, I've just seen you. The next one is Pete English. Now, Pete's got a bit of a reputation on the podcast for his questions. So let's see what he throws up here. Hi, guys. Hope you're both fitting well. I personally think the bucket list is a fantastic concept. However, I don't personally have one. I made the decision a few years ago, if someone asked me to join them doing something bike related, I said, I'm doing it, as that is what makes me extremely happy. My question, what do you want to be asked to do that would make you extremely happy? Oh, that's a good one.
Right. I love that attitude. I really, really, really enjoy just chatting to people and connecting with people and sort of going with the flow and being silly and making people laugh. I was actually saying to Toddy, who helps me with 100 Things, like together we basically do this now. Yeah.
You have the podcast, don't you? Is that Toddy that's on the podcast? Yeah.
Toddy. And I was just saying, I have a lot of ideas and thoughts, like many of us do, and I just would love to go down the rabbit hole with a few more of them, and maybe that's something I will start to integrate more. But, like, for example, I'm going to sound so dumb here. The Coyote and Roadrunner movies, cartoons. Growing up, so there was one scene I remember. So the Coyote's always trying to get after the Roadrunner and be faster than him. So Wile E. Coyote strapped a boat outboard, like a prop, to his back, to his shoulders, and he put it into a bucket of water that was behind him, and then he wore roller skates. So he turned the motor on, and it propelled him forward. I'm 40 years old, and I'm still unsure if that would work or not. And Toddy was laughing at me yesterday when I was telling him this, and he's like, obviously that's not going to work. And I was like, well, why? Now, maybe you know the answer, because I'm still unsure, but I would love to try that. I'd love to try and film it and then just put it out there.
Come on, do it.
What would happen? What do you think would happen?
I kind of think all the water would come out the bucket, and that would be it. Yeah, I mean, how big's the bucket? How big's the bucket?
Well, let's just say it could be as big as you needed. Like that's part of the challenge. Say it's a big bin. It's a trash can of. In fact, those skip bins, the ones with the wheels on the bottom.
Yeah.
Call it that with a motor tied into it, and then you wouldn't even need the roller skates because the wheels are on the bin, on the trash can.
Oh, geez. I mean, the logical part of my brain is screaming, no, it won't move. And the other part of my head's going, yeah, but why wouldn't it? Because the propeller's pushing against the water and pushing the water against the
Yeah, because the propeller's still going to, the engine still want to go forward, right?
Yeah. And the propeller is kept in a confined volume of water, isn't it? So it's always going to have something to push against, like it would in an ocean. So, Jesus,
I think
might
Wally
work.
Cody wants. Well, it might work, and so there's stuff like. So I'd like to make people. I'd like to pursue ideas whilst being entertaining. That's
Sebastian, you've got to do it, man. You've got to do that. You've got to do it.
Well, and then that led to like, well, what if it was a fan? If it was like a room fan, like it's just got really hot here in LA. So I just got this fan the other day. It's really loud. And I was like, if I put that on my back and I was wearing roller skates, would that push me forward? Now, I think the answer is definitely yes on that.
Yeah.
And unless it's not, people are laughing at me. But then it's like, well, how many fans? So then I'd like to record myself gathering fans to see how many I would need to be pushed forward. Anyway.
I see.
What about you? What would you like people to ask you more?
Wow. Cool. I mean, I've still got big dreams that I would love to attain. One is I never got all the way around Africa. I kind of, on my trip, I was going down the west side of Africa and things went a little bit wrong. So I ended up having to leave and come back to London. So I would love to go back and tick that off. I'd love to do the African continent on the bike. The other one was I always wanted to ride to Everest Base Camp. And I've always wanted to get to Mongolia, and I never got to Mongolia because I snapped the frame crossing Russia. So I made the decision to keep going and get to Japan rather than go down into Mongolia where I forgot to tell you, I did it on a sports bike, like a Suzuki GSX-R1000, which is like it's a race bike effectively. So,
oh, no way.
Yeah. So it was hard to do it on anything other than tarmac. And obviously there's quite a few places, especially in Mongolia, where there is no tarmac. So I just made the decision not to, with the broken sort of back of the bike, I just made the decision I'll limp it across Russia and get to Japan where I can get it fixed. So that's what I did. So I'd love to go back and do Mongolia.
Yeah, I went to Mongolia. On my list was throw a dart at a map and go to the country it lands on, and it was Mongolia. Oh. So I also have a great motorbike story. Well, it's not great. I was in India and I saw. Am I waffling? Do you need to keep me on track here?
No, mate. Honestly, please do.
I was in India and we took a group to India to do a meditation retreat. So people who had that on their lists, we organised trips for. So we went there and I saw this Royal Enfield motorcycle on the edge. I'm not a motorcycle person. On the edge of the River Ganges. And I was like, that's beautiful. I think it was a Bullet. I think it's called a Bullet. Mm-hmm. And it was a Bullet 500. And it was army green. I was like, that is so sexy. And I thought about buying one there and getting it back to Australia. And I thought, oh, no, there'll be another time. And it's obvious I need to get it. So then I've got a friend here called Susie. She's amazing. She's so lovely. She owns a company called Poopery, which is it's a spritz that you put into the toilet bowl. So when you go for yeah. She's doing very well. It's a very big company. Anyway, so I go to her house one day and we go into her garage. She lives in a church. It's absolutely beautiful. She's redecorated it. It's fantastic. And we go to a garage, and in that garage is the exact bike, the Royal Enfield, the same color, the Bullet 500. I think it's a Bullet or a Classic, whatever it is. Yeah, and I was like, Susie, you are not going to believe this. I go, four years ago, I saw one just like this on the edge of the. I finished the story, and by the end of it, she said, I want to give it to you. I'm trying to get rid of it. No one wants it. So I have this beautiful, it's just it's in my garage here.
Seriously?
Yeah, Royal Enfield. Yeah. And I started riding it around LA. I actually had a bit of a prang on it one day. A car pulled out in front and I went into the back of it. It wasn't serious, but I haven't ridden it in ages. But the idea of adventure riding like you've done is fascinating.
Oh man, just go for it. If it's something that you even have an inkling that you want to do, just do it. I mean, the States is such a good place to hit the road on a motorbike because it's vast and it's so different, in territories, in weather, in the people. It's just massive. It's like a world trip in itself, just going around the States.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I've started to develop this quite unhealthy appetite to row the Atlantic. I've started watching that, different people doing it on Instagram and stuff, and thinking, oh, that looks a challenge.
Solo?
Sorry?
By yourself or as a team?
No, I would like to do it solo.
Yeah.
I think.
There's a part of me that I actually have it written on I have a door over here of ideas. I have it written on the door.
Oh.
Yeah, Rowan Ocean. I can read it from here. I've always thought about doing that too.
When you're doing it?
I have no idea. We can go next to each other, which have to be in two different boats, I suppose.
Yeah, I know. It's the money. It's like 140, 150 odd £1,000 you need to raise to do it. So, yeah, that's the inhibiting factor at present. But never say never.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Last one of the Patreon questions. Joe Hicks. Hi, gents. My question is, what is your most and least favourite bucket list item? Oh, have we covered that? Have we done that yet? I don't think we have we?
Said like my fortune telling experience was like a little underwhelming. The best way, it sounds super cliche. I mean, so one is whichever one I'm doing now, I love. Like that's always just been my answer. Like I just was playing piano then in that little break we had. It's on my list. Learn a classical piano piece. I'm learning off YouTube. I don't know anything to do with music notes or anything. So I love it. I'm fascinated. And French. I'm trying to learn French at the moment. I had a virtual blind date with a French girl. Yeah, super awkward. So I always like those things. I mean, I lived on a deserted island for a week. That's definitely like a really fond memory. It was just it was everything that you might imagine living on a deserted island would be like that movie, Castaway type.
Yeah. Was that for a week? Did you say?
For a week, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's on this island called INNOVV, which is 55 kilometers off the mainland of New Caledonia. Sharks every single night going around the island. Sea snakes everywhere. Poisonous sea snakes. It was great. I took a machete and a ukulele, and I mean, it was amazing. But also like I helped Mark. It was on my list. 26 is to help a stranger, and I helped Mark complete that marathon. And I've gone on to help. I'm really proud to say a bunch of people. And anytime that happens, I don't really feel there's a better feeling than that. I mean, we actually, there was a girl in our community who needed a kidney, and she had dialysis, end stage dialysis. What's it called? End stage renal failure, and she was on dialysis. And someone within the community went through the whole process and got okay to donate a kidney to her. Whoa. So when that stuff starts to happen, it's there are many more things that are more impactful than me jumping out of a plane naked, but it all leads to a good place anyway. So Mate,
that's amazing. I mean, did you ever think something like this would come of your decision 12 years ago to start doing what you did? No. I mean, at one point I thought this might make an interesting book. Like that's as big as I thought. No. But very quickly I noticed the impact it was having. As soon as I started, I was getting emails from people telling me in-depth things about their lives and things they've had to overcome, and the biggest joys and the biggest regrets and sorrows, and they were telling me all these things that they got from seeing me do my goals. I maintain that I'm pretty sure. I think that a lot of people see themselves in this story in me, because I'm someone trying to be happy, and I think that's everyone's narrative, right? So but I didn't think it would go in this direction. And like that, but with that said, like now I had a TV show and a book, and I get to speak and all that stuff around the world, and like that's all awesome. But now with that, I reckon we haven't even scratched the surface. Now I think there will be some huge things to happen. That's all ahead. So we'll see. But even if it was just this, it would be great. Yeah. Awesome, man. I'm very conscious of the time. We've got about 5 minutes left. Is that okay? Sure. Just to milk the last 5 out of it? Right, we've done all the clan questions over on Patreon. We'll fire across to Instagram now. So that's at TeapotOne Insta. We've got a couple here. First one, Nick in Knutsford. Is it possible to stay happy by not moving around? I know I'm only happy when traveling. Or can you redefine happiness? Blimey, they're getting deep, aren't they, some of these? Yeah, I feel like you need a monk on here to talk about. So I would say you don't need to travel to be happy. I think it's an internal deal. Like I don't think it matters if you're at Everest Base Camp or Mongolia or anywhere else we've spoken about. I know that traveling absolutely sparks something which makes us feel amazing. But I joke about having a monk on here, but you think about the life of a monk. I guess they work their lifetimes on feeling some sense of enlightenment from not having to be anywhere or do anything, I think it's in that stillness that, and I'm not qualified to talk about this from a
some sort of poetically spiritual place, but it's true. I do very much sense and feel that, the true essence of happiness is just by being you. And I don't think you have to be anywhere particular to be able to be you. Of course, like quarantine that we've all had to go through and that many of us are still in, it sucks to the degree that we can't go and do those things, which are really important. Seeing the world and traveling and seeing friends and being active. And of course it's important, but it's not the absolute key. I feel that perhaps it's more of a balance that I'm making out, but I think that happiness is an inside job. Someone told me once, I think you can get that internally. So again, like in COVID, in quarantine, a lot of people wanted to run a marathon. They weren't able to, but some people ran around their yard. Some people had a running machine and they did that. So you can be creative with these things, because ultimately it's not the things that we do. It's not, if you look at like a list or goals in particular, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's below the water. That's the values. Those are the values. So although you think you might need to be at the top of a mountain to feel a certain sense of satisfaction, well, I'd argue that you don't. I'd argue that adventure, that freedom, that liberation that you seek comes from like these underpinning values, which you can, in essence, get from not having to go to a mountain. You can get that from being creative in your backyard and painting the fence with your kids, or you know what I mean. You can drive the same feeling and satisfaction from not having to travel somewhere, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, I think that's us up to your 9 p.m. Was it 1 p.m.? 1 p.m. over with you.
Let's go a little bit more. We can go a little bit more if you have time.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, God,
have you more questions?
Yeah. There's still a couple more here. Next one we've got then. That's awesome. Thank you. Next one, Robert Newman, 27. Hello, gents. Hope you're both well. Sebastian's a top bloke, and his story and what he's done does so much to help so many people. I spent the last 12 months trucking around the UK Monday to Friday, delivering to hospitals, PPE, swab test kits, and since January, vaccines. This gives me a great feel-good factor. And every Wednesday, that's when I release the podcast, I get to listen to the Barry White of Motorcycle Chat. Cheers. Although not always motorcycle related. My question for both, what is your favourite fact? Mine is that all sons grow to be taller than their mother. Is that a fact? I've never heard that. Keep up the good work, Bruce. Not long now till we get you on Prime. Looking forward to it. I've got a bit of a TV show coming up as well, actually. So,
Wow.
I got asked to present on a new motorcycle sort of TV channel. It was going to be on Amazon Prime, but now it's not. Amazon's just literally a couple of months ago decided that they're not allowing factual based content, I think, from that point onwards. So we're like, so I think it's now going on another TV channel. I'm just waiting for confirmation.
Congratulations.
Thank
the
you,
Barry White of motorcycle chat.
I've never been called that.
Well, I can't remember his question now. What was that? Just a fact. Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, what a great example. Yeah, well, first of all, what a great example of someone who's found purpose in their job and what they do.
Yeah,
they're helping people through their profession. Yeah, even I mean, it's kind of a famous I don't know what the word is for this situation or something, that someone went to NASA and there was someone cleaning, like the janitor at NASA. They said, oh, what do you do here? And he said, oh, we help people get to the moon or whatever. And he's a janitor. And it's like, it's that vision. And I feel like we're all kind of that janitor in many ways. But I love that, everyone can find purpose in their job, and literally delivering devices which are helping people stay alive or whatever. I mean, what more could you really want? Fact. Well, firstly, I'm sure that's not right about the mother.
I don't think it is.
It can't be. If it is, what a fact. I don't think I have anything. Actually, I don't have many. Well, here's an interesting fact. Studies were done in 2018 here in the US around goal setting. By simply writing down a goal, that's it, just writing a goal down, you are 42% more likely to achieve it. By then sharing that goal with somebody, you are 65% more likely to achieve it. And then sharing with that goal with more people over time, you are 95% more likely to achieve it.
Yeah, totally. I was going to say, when you said about writing it down, for me, it was telling people I'm going to ride around the world. And once I'd sort of put that out to my friends and family, then it was like, yeah, I've got to do this now. It's got to happen. And it was a massive sort of impetus and motivation to keep going.
Yeah.
Not just the promise that I'd made, but that as well. You're like, right, I've said it, I've got to do it. Let's go for it.
Well, it's accountability, right? Like self-accountability and then social accountability. That's my fact. Have you got one?
I'm frantically racking my brain trying to think. Fact. Sheesh. I can't. God, I sound so boring. I can't think of anything. So I tend not to pre-read these either, so they're as much of a shock to me as they are to you as the guest.
Well, that's a fact. You don't read questions before before recording.
I'm sorry, man. I can't think of one, Robert. Apologies. I'll get back to you, Robert. I promise. I'll get back to you. I'll have a think and I'll DM you or something, and I'll not let you down there. Right. There's one more. Jane Barnes. I don't think this is a question. Having a quick look at it. She just says, this sounds good. Life is richer spending time on beautiful experiences. There's a really good book called Time and How to Spend It by James Wallman. Have you heard of that? Time and How to Spend It. No, cheers, Jane. We'll check that out. Let me have a little look and see if there's one on... I don't think there was one on Facebook. Can't remember if I posted up on that. I think we've gone through all the questions, mate. That's almost spot on timing.
Mate, brilliant. That was really enjoyable. Mate, no wonder you're going to be a TV host. You're fantastic at this.
Thank you very much. But yeah, I'm so sorry about abandoning you right at the start to go and chase that bloody puppy.
Let me be honest. When you went outside, I heard your wife kind of like screaming or wailing in the back, and I thought something had happened to the puppy.
Yeah,
I thought you might come back going, mate, we're going to have to redo this.
Yeah, it was running through my mind.
I've been run over by a guy delivering medical equipment throughout UK.
Yeah. Hopefully, she panicked, bless her. But she's okay now. Thank you very much for your patience with that. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, of course. No worries at all. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Honestly, my pleasure. I've been following you for quite a few years, and I was over the moon when you said, "Yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's do the podcast." So thank you very much for coming on. How can people find out more about 100 Things, about what you've done in the past, what you're planning to do in the future? What's the best way?
Well, they can go to the website 100things.com, 100things.com, or I'm on social media on Instagram, as everyone is, Seb 100 Things, SEB 100 Things. I'd say those are if you see me, stop me, say hello. Those are the best ways. I also want to follow you on Patreon. I don't know anything about Patreon, but it sounds great.
Oh, thank you very much. You probably won't know I'm going to say this. Patreon's like a crowdfunding type thing. It's It's a thing for creatives where people can pledge anything they want, literally from $1 to whatever they want to do. And it's just a way of helping, I hate this word, but creatives, do what they want to do. It's a way of people giving a little bit extra support there. So it helps with kit, it helps with equipment, it helps. Well, for me, it forms, half of my income basically. So,
wow,
there's lots of people on there.
So people go on there, you post content on there.
Yeah.
And
what I tend to do is I will post up content early on there. So my YouTube videos and things, I'll post up early on Patreon. So sometimes it might literally just be a couple of hours earlier if it's been a late edit. Sometimes it's a few days or a week earlier. I do meetups just for Patreons all around the UK. And once we're clear to travel, I'll be going across Europe and worldwide meeting up with people. So it's just a way of, I want to try, people are investing, their hard-earned money into me, so I want to try and give something back for that support. So there's that, and then all the other social media as well. So we've really got quite a good community that's sort of sprung up around the whole TeapotOne name. It's good. Yeah, it's really good.
And I love it. I'm going to start following you too. It's always interesting with this stuff because I get asked to be on plenty of podcasts, and I try and say yes to everyone, of course, but it's always nice to actually meet someone and be like, oh, they're awesome. And that's how I feel. So
thank you,
I don't know whether you feel that about me, but
absolutely.
I'm on yours now. I just followed you back. Oh, there's a photo of me. Great. Look at that.
That's right. That's where I posted up saying that you were coming on, and then obviously people can leave questions and stuff on there.
Awesome. Folks, also, what about this? My Royal Enfield, I'm not sure I'm going to ride it again. I don't know, because I had that crash.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then obviously a lot of people go, oh, motorbikes. So I don't know. I kind of feel, I was thinking recently that maybe I do a giveaway with the motorbike. I mean, it's amazing. It's 2015. It's barely ridden. It's beautiful. Anyway, then we can talk more about that. But
yeah, definitely. Some
interesting.
Right. I'll send you a message afterwards and we'll see what we can do. Help spread the word. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this one. I will leave all of Sebastian's links to the website, to all the social media, everything like that will be down in the show notes. If you're listening to the podcast, check out the show notes. And if you're watching the vid on YouTube, have a look at the description and all the links will be there. Please do give Sebastian a follow on all the various platforms there. And if the 100 Things thing strikes a chord with you, give it a bash. You never know. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. That was fun.
Absolute pleasure. I'll send you a message afterwards and we'll see what we can do with the Enfield.
Amazing. Yeah. Cheers.
Dude, all the best for your French and with the handstand. Look forward to following it.
See you. Bye.
All the best to you. Cheers, pal. Bye-bye.